in my life, I would say there's probably been, I want to say, 8, 10, 12 times in my life, somewhere around there. I mean, I'd have to sit down and, with the help of my wife and friends, family, really pencil it out. But as I was praying yesterday and today, I can think of about a dozen times in my life where God did put a target before me and said, Eddie, my son, that's the target right there. I need you to hit that target. That target is my will for your life. I wouldn't call it my life's target. I would call it more a target on the road of life. One of them would have been when I was probably about, I would say 19, 20 years old, 21, somewhere in there. The church I grew up in had a men's camp, men's retreat. And it was a place called Black Lake. And Dr. Cole, Dr. Edwin Willis Cole was the speaker. And he preached a great message. And I don't even remember what he preached, but I just knew inside, I just remember that inside of me I was drawn to go to that altar and to be prayed for. And I just knew that God was drawing me. I felt that draw like a compass being pulled towards something. And he ended up prophesying over me in that service. And again, I don't remember all the details, but I do know this. It was prophesied over me that I was going to enter ministry. That God had a target for me to hit in ministry. Now, how many of you know it was important that I responded to that? Right. Or I wouldn't be standing here today. That's right. So that was a target on the road of, I would call life or destiny in God, that it was important that I hit that target. It was not a target that I chose, and the reason I say that is because most of my life I had said, I will not be a pastor, I will not be a preacher, I refuse to do that, there is no way in the world, okay, I'll do it, you know. Yeah. And what am I saying? That God makes us do things we don't want to do? No, my compass was being pulled off of true north by other things. Desires of a young man. The next time that I think that God really did, that would have been the early 1980s. I would say the mid-80s. I really remember specifically God spoke to me and led me on a little journey to buy a piece of property. I mean, it became so clear. I was supposed to buy. He wanted me to buy this piece of property. It wasn't like, you know what, I really feel the impression that God might be wanting, you know, this is a good deal. I should consider it. No, it literally came to us like, this is something that we have to buy. And it wasn't an easy thing, but we did it. And you know what? This week, as I was considering this message and this thought, I could actually connect the dots. You know, you connect the dots. A child has that game. They connect the dots, and all of a sudden something begins to appear. This week, the Lord helped me connect the dots from that moment and obeying that decision to purchase that field or that piece of property, which we built a house and sold it on that as an investment type house. The first house we ever built to sell. I could connect the dots and I could see how you follow the money. You ever heard that, all the business people, you know, where'd the money go? Follow the money. Okay. Follow the money. I could see that there was a chain of events, a dozen chains of events that brought us to where we had the finances that we needed to move from Washington to here and to buy a house and plant this church. You could follow the money. You could see. That turned out, in my opinion, as one of the best financial decisions. And really, there's not been a lot of absolute targets that I believe God has given us financially where I say, I got to do this. Now, some of them are smart, some's wisdom, but I mean where God actually was like, Eddie, come on now. This is important. This is the target. Later, you'll know this story, and this would have been the early 90s, right around, maybe right at 1990, 91, right in there. Our church, at the time where I was living, growing up, had some kind of special campaign for, I think it was a building project, etc. And Tammy and I were tithers, or givers, we give, but God tapped us on the shoulder in an offering one day and said, I want you to give $30,000 in the offering. And I was hoping that Tammy came up with a different number than me, like less. But yet we came up with the same number independently, and that was odd because $30,000 was a mountain of money at that time in our lives. And we both remember talking to God saying, God, you are so funny. Sometimes you don't make any sense. This will help you, God. Look at our checkbook. Now, maybe you want to pick a different number. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes God doesn't make any sense. You're like, I'm not going to say it. But you're wondering, are you getting a little old up there? You know what I'm saying? You're forgetting some things. And God's response was, listen, I have blessed you. I have blessed you and blessed you and blessed you. I blessed everything you've touched. In fact, everybody always used to say, Eddie, everything turns to gold in your hands. That's what they say. That's what they always said. Eddie, every time you fall, you land on your feet. Every time something bad happens to you, it turns out it's actually good for you. Somehow it turned into money. It's true. Everything turned to gold in my hand. Everything. And God then says, do you think you caused everything to turn to gold in your hand? Do you actually think you're that smart? No, I blessed you. And I blessed you so much. I overblessed you. I gave you some. And you should have plenty of money left over to give $30,000 to the building fund to build the house of God. Well, Tammy and I, we just was like, okay, all right. And here's the other cool thing about God. He didn't say, well, you blew it. Let's, learn something and next time we'll get it right. He's like, no, that's the target. Now get with the program. Figure it out. And we had to figure it out. And I had to get some help. We had to get a plan. It took months to do it. But we gave that money. The next time that really happened to us would have been, I think, 1997. God spoke to us and said, live in England, move to England. It was a target. It wasn't like, hey, you've been asking for direction for your life? Do you really want it? England is it. We're like, ooh, didn't realize that was in the cards. Can you reshuffle the deck and let's try for something else? Maybe California is the place to be. So we loaded up the truck and moved to, anyway. I'm having fun today, and I'm wondering about you. We're talking about hitting the target in our life. You know what? The reason I'm having so much fun with this is it causes me to look at my life and realize, man, what a funny ride sometimes we live in God. But we moved to England. And sometimes hitting the target is not fun. In fact, I would say this, every time, I thank God that He doesn't put a target in front of me every day that's that hard. But you know what? We did. We moved to England. We made that transition. The next time that we really felt like God put a target in front of us was 2004, and it was Plant Champion Life Church right here in this desert. Right. So what am I saying? I'm saying there's been probably a dozen times in my life that it was like that clear, defined target. And I couldn't do the old, and then go, you can grab a... Everybody would know it if I did that. You know what I'm saying? God says go to England, and I go, we're moving to Chicago. People do that all the time. That's right. It's like God says, no, I want you to do this. I want you to get involved. I want you to serve. I want you to bless people. I want you to give. I want you to change your life. And you're like, God, that's a difficult target. What about this one? And everybody looks and goes, now why in the world would they put a target over there? And why would you shoot at that? But that's kind of how we do it for our lives.